It's pretty easy to lose yourself in the Darien because we're going to beautiful places and we see beautiful landscapes and amazing birds. And what I observe as a tourist, other than the birds, are families just going about their normal days. But make no mistake, this area has a reputation.
You can get robbed, you can get kidnapped, you can just disappear, and that's that. And that's the end of the story.
Over the next 2 days, we'll see these beautiful places while we're birding, and then on the final day, we make a play for the Harpy Eagle deep in the jungle. And we'll do all of this with our heads on a swivel. Our first morning in the Darien started like a lot of the other days had. In the van, going down a bumpy side road, with the window down and our guide listening for some good birds. We start this morning with some almost deja vu in this white-necked puffbird, which looks pretty similar to the bird we ended with the night before in Tortilla, the pied puffbird. The next bird we saw was a bit of a redemption arc for us. Do you remember back in the first episode where I climbed this tower? And then at the top, we were really trying to see this blue Katinga, but this was the best look that we got? Well, I think we've slightly improved that here.
Yep.
It was definitely a relief to all of us in the group to get a redemption with this bird. This little road had a bunch of great stuff, and I didn't think that the blue Katinga could be topped for the day, but I really liked this. This golden green woodpecker was right next to the trail, so we were able to get really good looks, and this was one of my favorite stills I was able to get of him. And then next up was another close encounter. We came across some wetlands along this road where we looked again for our elusive sun bittern. No luck. But we did then come across another new woodpecker. This cinnamon Bacard was another bird we had gotten a brief look at the beginning of the tour, so it was nice to get an extended look here later. The last bird at this location is a bit of a funny one in this rufous-tailed jacamar. Our guide Jacob had been hearing this all morning at various stops and had been going back into the jungle trying to find it for us, but he always came up empty-handed. So to see it here at the end of this location, right on the trail, was pretty humorous. The busy morning continues, and we're on to our next location. We're trying to cram as much as we can in today, so that way tomorrow, the Harpy Eagle can be our sole focus. Our attention didn't last too long on this Red Lord Amazon, because this new species was making a bunch of noise right next to it. And that was a wrap on our morning with this long-distance roadside hawk, and also enjoying some more of the other wildlife as we made our way back to the van.
Well, you tried.
feels crazy to say this, but this is our last afternoon outing of the entire tour. And with our big Harpy Eagle day tomorrow, we're taking it pretty easy and we're just sticking to some parks and areas around where we're staying in Meteti. At our first stop here, it was pretty quiet. But then we found the reason why soon after. This roadside hawk had the whole place on lockdown. No worries though, we moved on to a different part of the park, and guess who we found again? While we were moving to the next location, our guide pulled over here in this little neighborhood because we've got a new species, and it is this Carib grackle.
Would you like to go close?
We also just happened to see this gray-cowled wood rail crossing the road. It's a pretty tough one to see in this area. With no more further roadside distractions, we made it to our final stop of the night, which is here near Puerto Quimba in the Iglesia River. And just like the secret lagoon we went to at the beginning of the trip in Chiriquí, this place too was also a vibe. With the light getting low, I did my best trying to film these flocks of birds flying upriver, going to their roosting sites for the night. We called it a night after this last flock of white ibis, and as we stood there enjoying the sunset on the river, we had no idea what was in store for us tomorrow when we go after the Harpy Eagle. It's one last early morning wake-up call, and it's one last drive through some small town I've never heard of, and honestly, probably will never come back to again. So I try to take everything in and enjoy this finale of the tour as we head off to see the Harpy Eagle. Our search for them begins here in the town of Yavisa, which is sort of ironic because it's literally where the road ends. And while we get booted up in the van for this insane journey, let me explain a few things about this day that you probably aren't expecting. So think of it this way, we're here in Yavisa, and somewhere out there in the dense rainforest and jungle are our harpies. Fortunately, scientists and local birding guides have been mapping out the nest locations in this area for decades. And this helps, but there's another problem. The eagles rarely use the same nest every year, so knowing which nest they're in this year is still a bit of a mystery. That's where local guides come in to bail us out. They scout the nest locations each year and have found some good news for us. The active nest this year isn't the closest one, but it sure isn't the furthest one away either. And there's also the issue of getting there, because like I said, there's no roads. Well, there's no roads for cars or vans, but how about a river and a boat? The luck continued when we were told that in the nest was a Harpy eaglet. The odds of this are incredible because Harpy eagles only have eaglets once every 2 to 3 years. But that does come with some downside too. While the eaglet is on the nest, the parents will actually stay pretty far away. They'll hunt in areas far away from the nest and only bring food into the eaglet a couple of times a week. So the chances of seeing the eaglet were virtually guaranteed, but the chances of seeing one of the full-grown adults was almost zero. But that was the plan for the day, and now that you're up to speed, I believe I've got a boat to catch. And loading into this long, skinny raft was a bit tricky and a good test of your balance. And I'll also admit, I'm from landlocked Colorado, so I'm not really a boat and water guy. But once we pushed off and actually started moving at some speed, the boat felt more balanced, and well, I was enjoying it. I couldn't wipe this silly grin off my face. And after a 15-minute ride up the river, we finally got to our landing spot for the Harpy, where the hard work would truly begin. And this isn't public land, this is private land, The bird guides and bird companies make deals with the local farmers to allow guests to come see the Harpy Eagle. We knew this hike would take about an hour, and to start it wasn't too bad because the cloud cover was keeping the heat down. But that didn't last long, and about 20 minutes later, the clouds were gone. It sure was pretty up here though. Heavy rains the previous days had turned the trails to pure mud, and it really made this hike turn into even more of a slog. The good news was, we were still stopping when we saw good birds.
That tree on the left. ¿Cómo se llama el que tiene el coso rojo aquí? El little.
My favorite along the way were for certain these blue and yellow macaw. After seeing the macaws, we took a break up here at the top of this hill, and we were relieved to find out that going down on the other side of the hill, we'd then go into the jungle where we'd be out of the sun for the rest of the hike. Yeah. And then, a few minutes later, we had made it to the nest. At first, the eaglet stayed pretty far back in the nest. I could only see the top of his head. But a few minutes later, he finally came forward. The first thing that caught me really off guard was its size. At 4.5 months old, when I think of an eaglet, I think of something a little bit smaller. This guy was huge.
Silva.
The eaglet every now and then would move to a different side of the nest, but overall he was just kind of chilling. We'd go on alert when the howler monkeys nearby got riled up, thinking that maybe there was a chance one of the full-grown adults was coming back to the nest, but they never did. And that's how the tour ends. There's no big dramatic reveal. It's just a bunch of great people in the jungle enjoying an awesome bird. We made the grueling hike back, which was just as hard as it was going out there, where the farmer's family invited us to enjoy a beer here in the shade. It was a perfect way to end the tour. And it was now time for us to say goodbye to Panama. So, should you come to Panama to go birding? Well, our code guide here makes a pretty good case for it.
Guido Berguido, biologist, director at Adopta Bosque. Well, Panama is a true birdwatcher's paradise. Despite our tiny little size, we have an amazing diversity of birds. In fact, more bird species in Panama than all of the US and Canada combined. That means that there's an amazing diversity and immense of habitats. Not only are there different kinds of forests, but there are different kinds of vegetation types. We have wetlands, we have islands, we have lowland forests, cloud forests, and many more areas. In addition, we're in the middle of North America and South America, which allows us to be at the crossroad of these avifaunas and, of course, migratory species. We're very accessible. Yeah. We're between 2 hours from Miami, 5 hours from New York. There are lots of direct flights. There's plenty of connectivity through our international hub here in Panama City. And the infrastructure is amazing. We have lots of roads everywhere that allow access to various kinds of habitats, various geographical provinces that offers opportunity to get many, many birds in very little time.
And I tend to agree with him on almost all of that. In fact, if you want to know my in-depth review, my thoughts, the pros and cons, wait a minute. Don't I usually do a tease for a coming up part? Okay, yeah, that's what we're gonna do. Here, watch this, and then watch my full review video. Coming up on the review and behind the scenes video, I'm back in the real world, but it confuses me.
Why the hell is it 90 degrees in March?
I always had my priorities straight, and I told everyone in the group that if I fell in the river, I was gonna hold my camera up and save it. Don't worry about me. And the Panamanian food didn't quite live up to what I was expecting. I cannot eat chicken and rice again for a minimum of 6 to 9 months.